Have a seat, gentlemen, please. Brandon, let me start with you. You're on the smaller side. You're a 3-year-old company. Both your companies are Europe-born. But tell me a little bit about your IP story, your journey, and also tell us a little bit about the product and about the company.
Sure. So ByoWave is a company that started 3 years ago when I re-met a childhood friend of mine, Evelyn O'Riordan. She basically told me about a disability she had that wasn't letting her play video games to the same extent that a lot of her colleagues could, even though she was making award-winning video games. I thought that, that kind of sucked. So I thought of a modular system that allowed people with disabilities to allow AI build them their own controller, but most importantly, in a scalable manner with a realistic supply chain. So I thought of this, and then we built this prototype together, and we began going through our journey to try and get funding. However, I, by chance, met a IP expert in Ireland, and he told me, dude, if you want to get funding for this, get your IP sorted. And I knew nothing about IP at that time, so I was kind of like, yeah. And then he really, really stressed it, and I'm so happy he did. He told me about an IP scan grant that the EUIPO were offering. So together we looked into it, we got that grant. It gave me his time without any ulterior motives, and basically he put a strategy in place for me, and ultimately he was there during the presentation when we got one of the largest angel seed round investments in Ireland.
And just to put a little bit of context, it's kind of like a handset that you customize to make it more usable for when you want to play games.
Correct. I'm not sure if I should say it this way, but it's like Lego for video game controllers.
Okay, that's one way of putting it. Juan Manuel, let me turn to you. You're a bigger organization, a longer established, but a family organization as well. Yeah. Tell us about what your journey has been and your perspective.
With the IP, is for us, we are in the fashion business. We are in a shoe company, Pikolinos group, and for us, we have every 6 months. It's like we have to try to reinvent our company through the designs. So for us, it's much more in the design registration and also the protection about the designs. And for us, the IP is very important in the way that we are very different in product-wise from the designs in the market, and that makes us that we try to follow to have icons. Our icons normally, they are through 8, 10 seasons. That means that we can be having styles from 8 to 10 years. We still have one design that was one of the first that my father did, and it's already 30 years.
And it's primarily shoes and leather goods we're talking about. Yeah.
And the thing is that for us, for us it's very important to protect those designs in the way that if we don't protect them properly, the lifetime of the design with all those copies, let's say, in the market can be 50% of the time. So we make an investment, we make a lot of work, not to have an 8 years design, so to have 3 years, because in the massive show in the market.
Well, Brandon, let me come back to you. You mentioned that you started your patenting path with an EUIPO grant. How important was that grant to you?
Oh, well, it was very important because I suppose the expert's time and energy that he gave to this project couldn't really be free of charge. He is a very busy individual. So that gave me access to his time and energy in order to create that strategy. And in order to start creating it more than a year in advance of us pushing for the seed round that we needed to advance our business. So if we had only started that journey just as we were coming into looking for funding and we realized it was important at that stage, then our funding round might have taken an entire other year, and the business might not be in the position it's in today. So very important.
Well, Juan Manuel, you're at a very different stage down the similar path. How much is your company investing in fighting IP infringement?
Well, we every year we make something like 250, 300 new styles, and we have the old styles also. So we normally protect around 100, 120 designs. That is a lot for us, because we are not in a fast fashion business. So that is a lot of number of protected designs that we need to have every year. And that is around, I don't know, 100,000, 150,000 euros, and that is a lot of money for us, for a company like us, to be investing in the protection.
And Brandon, now I know you've worked alongside huge companies like Microsoft, and that I'm interested to know how that sort of collaboration is helpful to you. Is it that knowledge source? Is it just being able to give you advice, or is it practical? This is the steps you should be taking.
It's a combination of everything, really. The video game controller space is an extremely competitive space, particularly given that it's a hardware market. So for a small company to enter that, help from the large players already is hugely accelerating. So one requirement we have for our controller is that it works with multiple different software ecosystems. Of course, Microsoft with the Xbox and PC have the largest chunk of the gaming market. So to be able to work with them opens up a huge amount of functionality and market to our controller. Having understood what IP is in the first place, having an IP strategy, having IP in place gave us huge confidence in conversing and moving forward with a company like Microsoft, just from our own perspective, so we could be confident in what we were saying and what we were sharing.
I mean, as you say, Microsoft has a huge market share, but presumably you don't just want to put all your eggs in one basket. How do you think about that?
Of course, and that's also natural in the video game controller space because there are multiple different ecosystems. So we do have to pay a license fee per controller that's sold to work with the Xbox ecosystem and PC for Microsoft ecosystem. It's a similar case for other big competitors out there, such as Nintendo and Sony. So we believe once we've everything in place, the concept's fully proven, things are working well by working with Microsoft, who are supporting us greatly, we'll be in a great position to move over to the lower market shares.
Juan Manuel, from a rights holder's perspective, I mean, how damaging is counterfeiting or piracy? Do you have any examples? I often ask for best practice examples. Have you any idea of worst practice examples or any stories?
Yeah, well, how is damaging? To make an idea, for example, our biggest markets is Spain, United States, and France, and then the rest of Europe. We make the main investment in our advertising is normally made in Spain and France. So when we start to do all the TV ads or social media ads, suddenly in that time appear something like, I don't know, hundreds of fake Pikolinos pages that the consumer, they don't know if they are real or not. And that is on one side, and that is, for us, is something very, very damaged in the way that our consumers, they get scared and they don't know if they are buying in the safe page or not. And well, we have now with some companies and tools that we are working with, trying to remove as quick as possible all those pages. And also in the other way, that there are some articles in some platforms that also they are so similar with our designs that is also very complicated for the consumers to know if they are buying the original one or not. So that is the bad side.
Well, you've come on to what I want to ask you as the next question, which involves platforms. And I'm interested to know about how you think perhaps the fight against counterfeiting or piracy has changed over time. We're looking at an increasingly digital online marketplace for consumers. Has that made life more difficult, or conversely, are you getting assistance from platforms in this fight?
Well, that also is making that, for example, in the past, from the design perspective, we had a competitor or someone who was making our same design, and they were selling in a shop in the middle of nowhere. And right now, the same brand, the same company is selling in the middle of nowhere and in big platforms that is very complicated. I mean, they show to all over the world. So that is the different part that before we had to be traveling around to trying to detect how was the fake product. And now it's much easier to find them for the consumer because it's very easy just to tape it online and they can find it. And also that is something that we keep working on, trying to fight against that.
So good news and bad news, I suppose, both
That's
sides. Right. I would like to ask if we've got any questions from the audience, anything you want to hear from our two speakers here presenting various elements of industry with their own sort of personal experience. Any hands up in the room? Any questions? Oh, I don't see any. I think everyone hasn't had enough coffee yet, gentlemen. But I'm going to ask you a wrap-up question, both of you, which is, what would you like to see as positive change in the future? What needs to be improved on a European scale or on a global scale? From your side, Brandon, what might you like to see in the future that would make your life easier going forward?
Well, sure. I suppose more grants available to people that are bootstrapping, who are working off savings, that mightn't necessarily be able to afford access to IP experts. Those grants, but also information on where to access those IP experts as sort of consultants to the business. And education in startup ecosystems, particularly in hardware, as to how important IP is in your seed or pre-seed funding rounds, and just how early you need to plan in order to put that into place. We managed to get a patent through in less than a year through fast tracking. That was only through experience that we were able to do that. And also the unitary patent system in Ireland, there's a referendum happening soon enough to get that into constitution, so it'd be fantastic if that went through as well.
Okay, and from your perspective, Juan Manuel, you've seen changes. What's changed for the better, and what would you like to see in the future?
Well, I think that I know you are working on that very hard. Is trying to harmonize as much as possible all the laws all around Europe. That is something very important. And then trying to, that also you're working very hard in that, is that all the big platforms, they need to be implementing those new laws as quick as possible. And also we need that all in the courts trying to be more specialized and also very fast, because we are in a fashion business, and something that we detect today, if we are not fast, in a month and a half or 2 months can be already very late, and for us is a very, very big damage in the fashion.
So if I was to sum it up, it's resources, support, and speed and enforcement. Wonderful. A big round of applause. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for kicking us off.